Welcome to the Go Time Podcast. Go Time Podcast with your host, Todd Martin.
One of my best friends growing up was he joined. He was like you. He joined the delayed entry, and he joined up before we graduated from high school. I don't think after our graduation, I don't think he was around for like 2 weeks, and he was boom gone. And he went in guaranteed job. He was the kid that wore the green jacket at school and stuff. Like he was he knew where he was going. He knew what he was going to be. And he's just a great kid. I really, really enjoyed him. We were really good, tight buddies. And he, went straight in. He went in guaranteed job as a ranger. And so he fit, and he went in and he graduated basic, and then went on jump school, and he finished that. And they had early out, or they had the run. I guess Clinton went into office, and they started doing all the budget cuts, right? And during those budget cuts, that was like one of the first ones that got cut, right? And so they looked at him and said, well, you got a choice. You can go home, or you can get a job that will give you until an opening opens up, and you can go back at the school when the school opens up. But right now it's full. And he was like, well, what kind of job am I going to get? And he was like, well, whatever we give you. Right. And so he was like, well, he was for sure lifer. He was going in, and, that was what he was going to do. So he was like, well, give me a job. He got a job. You'll love this. He got a job as a lifeguard in the topless beach in Vicenza, Italy for like 2 years. Yeah. And he did that for a couple of years until the slot came open, and then he went straight in, which he stayed in shape, and he was, he was ready to go. Right. And he, when 9/11 happened, I was training horses, and was early in the beginning of what I was doing and stuff. And we had just, cell phones were just kind of coming around, and I had one, and I hadn't heard from him in quite a long time. Right. And they had the budget cuts and everything. And then they opened back up for him, and then 9/11 happened, and I was riding around. I went over and I talked to his mom and asked her if she'd heard from him. She's like, Todd, I haven't heard from him in weeks. I got no idea. I haven't, I don't know where he's at, what's going on, nothing clue. So I was like, well, here's my number, give it to him and have him give me a call if he, calls. And I don't know, a couple of weeks later, whatever, I get a phone call, and it's him, and he's, finding his way back to somewhere, in the world, and on a satellite phone. And he's, then he took the time to call me, but, after he talked to his mom, and we got to BS and stuff. And that was one of the things that we were talking about. And I'm like, so what do I do? What's like, so I'm here and I'm doing my deal, but like, I feel like I need to be doing something too. I had finished and got out of the military or whatever. And military wasn't, I went in as a weatherman in the Air Force, and it wasn't really my gig. I wanted to go in, and actually I wanted to go para-weather, and I kept getting turned down for it. And then the budget cuts and whatever else, they didn't have any of the openings. And I was like, man, let's go home. So I didn't stay in, and I was asking him, I was like, so how do I make a difference? What do I do? And his deal, and I was such a profound, looking back at it now, because we were just kids, right? And his deal was, just go back and do your regular deal. Like, do what you're supposed to do, take care of your family, raise a good family, keep what's right, going on. And I think that's what we've lost, right? I think we've lost the importance of what the role is for, even not just the guy, that's out there fighting, the good fight in the middle of, the crap holes of the world, but that, we've lost the touch of what was the importance of doing it here at home, right? Being diligent. I think that's where, like you were saying with the kids now that are coming and talking to you, go out and get your job and figure it out and do those things and, be that part of it. But that can be such a huge role right now in leadership, that we do need the leadership inside of it. We do need the leadership inside our country again to grow great men, and through experience and through everything else. But like finding that importance, right? And that, here, that it's not just when these guys come back home and feel like they've lost their, like identity. You go through and you've, been a military guy for however many years, and you've seen combat and you've done all these different things. And then they come back and they're just like, I think I think it's such an important thing because it does feel like a loss. It feels like you're 40-year-old guys that have, conquered some stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, what am I doing now? Right. And for us as men, realizing like fight's here now. The fight now is to like, man, you need to pour into your kids. You need to pour into your family, being that example as a role model for your daughter. If you're not the good role model for your daughter, how's she going to know what kind of man to pick? She's not going to know where those things are at unless we're leading it from the front on really at home, is where the real fight is at now.
Unfortunately, our kids they're subjected to the education system that is very left-wing liberal. I experienced this myself. Raised my kids in a very conservative home, sent them off to college, and I came back and I'm like, who the hell are you? And what kind of bullshit are you talking to me about right now?
Yeah.
So I have a funny story to share with you. So this is one of my daughters. It's a long time ago. So she comes home from college one weekend and she's kind of cruising around like a shark. I knew something was up. She goes, Dad, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. What's the question? She goes, this was during the Bush era, when Bush was talking about putting the wall up. Okay. Yeah, Bush was talking about putting a wall up and the fence up. And she's like, what do you think about this whole idea of putting a wall up, to keep the Mexicans out, the illegals, aliens, or undocumented aliens, whatever the fuck. Look, they're illegal aliens. Whatever. Okay. They're goddamn criminals. Let's just say it what it is. All right. Stop sugarcoating this shit. You don't have to like it, but it's true. You come across this country, you're not invited, you're here illegally.
Illegal.
You do that shit here in Indonesia, you go into the gulag, man, for a very long time. And their prisons aren't very nice either. They don't mess around with this. But anyway, that's every country. That's every country in this world. If I go into their country and you're not invited, see what happens. But anyway, she goes like, Dad, what do you think about, this, put the wall up and keeping the aliens out, Mexicans out, whatever the hell they are, whoever they are. And I'm like, I said, build it higher and put machine guns on it. And she was like, but Dad, they're just trying to come here and make a better life for themselves, blah, 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 blah. Right? So she bought into all the bullshit from her liberal professors. And I'm like, let me tell you something. I said, when they come over here illegally, all right, they're over here using our infrastructure. They're over here taking advantage of everything we're working at and working hard to get. And they're getting this shit basically for free. They're working for lower wages. So, they're taking up jobs and other Americans are sitting on their ass on welfare, collecting a bunch of money when they could have went and did that job themselves. They keep saying, well, Americans won't take that job. I tell you what, you take away welfare, they will take those jobs because here in Indonesia, there's no welfare program, zero, no unemployment, nada. If you're not working, you're not eating. So you have a choice, find a job, make a job, or go hungry. And guess what? You don't see hungry people running around here. They make jobs or they find jobs or they create jobs, but they get it. And they're not poor. They're not destitute. They all do fine. They're not rich like Americans, but you know what? They're all very happy. And so that's the problem with the welfare unemployment system. I feel like if you took that out, every job will be taken. If you said, listen, I'll give you welfare. I understand. Sometimes shit happens. We'll put you on welfare 90 days. Okay, 6 months. When you get a job, guess what? You're paying that money back. You pay it back like a loan for the next guy that needs it. How about that? It's no more free shit, right? And so anyways, so she, she couldn't believe all that. What I said to her, I said, yeah, build a wall higher, put machine guns on. She's like, what? Oh my God, you saw me, Dad, blah, blah, blah. I said, yep. Because you know what? My mom is an immigrant. She came here to America legally. She's actually a German immigrant. Guess what? My wife is an immigrant and she's doing it legally. Same shit, right? I can go on and on and on. I said, these are people that didn't bypass everybody, didn't cheat when they crossed the border. They stood in line and did their part. And guess what? They speak English too. They learn how to speak English. They actually get it. And both of them, one of them's a Muslim Asian, the other one's a German. Both of them appreciate America for what it is, patriotism. They believe in they're conservatives. too, right? They don't believe in the liberal bullshit. So, anyways, so what happens?
But they learn that through struggle, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Everything that we're talking about, like it's hard to get in. It's hard to go through that. Then, but you going through the process of immigration, which is like a pain in the ass, right? Going through all the stuff, it costs money. It's, but you appreciate what you're going through in order to get it, unless it's just given to you, and then you have no appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Dude. It's absolutely, man. My mom is so happy. She's been in America for a long time. My wife is so excited, like, wow, it's going to come true. So 2 weeks later, after this conversation with my daughter, I'm down in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, Saturday night around 11 o'clock, and I'm in my car. My daughter calls me. I pick up the phone, and she's just losing her mind. I go, what is going on? She goes, Dad, I just got in a car accident. So she's actually injured. Okay, so here's what happened. Okay, she's driving along. Light is green. It's a T intersection. All of a sudden, a car in the T intersection pulls out. And she hits him aside. Okay. Two Mexicans could not speak English driving the other car. They had no driver's license. They had no insurance. They could not speak English. She hits them, flips their car over, totals her car, hurts herself. She's on the phone, and her first instinct was to call me right away. She just picked the phone and she's screaming, right? I'm talking to her, and then I can hear the police officer, ma'am, are you okay, man? Are you okay? Oh, what happened? I don't know. She's losing her shit. And I said, calm down. I said, just shut your mouth. Just be quiet right now. Okay. Don't say anything. Let's just hold the horse if we say something stupid. And so they go over and they interview so one of the Mexicans ends up going off in an ambulance, right? He's yacked up. The other guy refuses to give a statement. Refuses, even to the Spanish-speaking officer, refuses to give a statement. He's got no driver's license. They have no insurance. So what happens is, so now the investigation starts. My daughter's on my insurance policy at the time, and so and I'll just go out and say it was State Farm. Okay, State Farm Insurance. I've been with them forever, and so I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. Two illegal guys driving, without a license, no insurance, can't even speak English. Pull out, and they pulled out on a red light. She T-bones him, right? And so this should be a no-brainer. Well, no, it wasn't that simple. So I'm talking to the insurance company. They get back with me about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks later, something like that, a month later. They call me up and go, listen, we are selling out of court. We are going to award the other guys all kinds of money. And I go, what are you talking about? Why? We go, well, so here's what happened. It's two guys in one car. It's my daughter in one car. There's no other witnesses except for a third guy. I go, what third guy? They go, well, they were just leaving an automotive repair shop. And the guy that owns the automotive repair shop was their friend, also a Mexican. And he walks out. He said, I walked out, looked left, looked right. Go, oh, I saw the car accident. So he becomes the third witness. He supports his two buddies in the car and said, yeah, she ran a green light, T-boned them. And so they were like, we're not going to go to court because we're going to lose. It's now 3-1. Even if it was 2-1, we're going to lose. And so it's easier for us just to pay out. I go, okay, that's your money. I said, now, how does that affect my premium? We go, unfortunately, we're going to have to raise it. We're going to have to raise it. Right? So, yeah, I was so goddamn mad. It's State Farm, by the way. Everybody was out there listening. Okay? That's what they did to me, did to my daughter. So I turned around and called my daughter, and I said, you know what? Here's what happened. And she couldn't believe it. She goes, that's so unfair. That's so unfair. I said, remember that conversation we had about the wall? Yeah. I said, okay. I said, well, guess what? Here's some tough love for you. I said, I'm taking you off my insurance policy. You can now go out and buy your own insurance. You can pay for it. Okay. I was supporting her through college. I bought her car. I was paying everything for her. I said, now you know what? It's on you. I said, maybe those Mexicans will help you out. Because, and look, I'm not prejudiced. My best friend's Mexican. It ain't about that. It's about what happened. It's about, look, I'm not being politically correct. I'm going to call it like I see it. And this is what it was. This is what it is. And so I looked at her and she goes, but Dad, that's so unfair. I said, welcome to the real world. Welcome to America. I said, it's girls like you and guys that sit there and advocate for the illegal, but you're little, you want to, brokenhearted for them, and we, and you want to help them. I said, now help them. You already helped them. Now you're going to pay for it yourself because I'm not doing it. I said, you're off my policy. Yeah. Goodbye. So, so we can tie that into leadership if you want. It's a tough love, but it's a leadership call, and she's going to have to learn the hard way. I tried to explain it to her the first time. It didn't move out of her head. It's all right. Now it happens to you. Now you get to learn the hard way,
Yeah. I think back to my dad. My dad would always, would tell me to, tell me how to do things and what to do and whatever else. And I remember him just always going back to like, man, I just, why do you have to go and experience those hard things? Well, you can't just do what I told you and learn from my mistakes. And that's mankind. Like, that's what we all got to do. That's what we all got to figure out is you got to learn from your own mistakes. And unfortunately, our kids are going to have to learn from the mistakes of, our fathers and the forefathers that, kept letting and being lenient and not understanding that, everything comes at a cost. Somebody's going to pay for it. Somebody's going to pay for every bit of it. Whether it's a car accident, somebody's going to pay for it. Your premiums and everything else that paid for it. It's going to cost somebody somewhere. It's crazy that it's crazy to me to see that even corporations nowadays, it's about a number instead of what's right. That they're not fighting for and what they're doing. They're setting a precedent. Right. All of these corporations are setting a precedent for the next one. Like, you look at how many claims that they're going on now that are just crap claims because some truck run over, whatever. And, that guy that's got the, ad out for the, lawyers that's looking at, chasing the next ambulance and whatever, like, he's getting rewarded for it. Yeah. He's making, buku millions of dollars off of all of these, the backs of all these other folks that, were in an accident, and all they got to do, they don't even have to prove it. All they got to do is they got to just prove that it's cheaper to pay me off as an insurance company than to fight this thing. And I know I can sit and run this thing up, the bill up for whatever, and you got your lawyers on hand and whatever else, but they know the cost. All they have to do is get to where the cost of settling is cheaper than the cost of going to court. And that's how they're going to run it. But we're rewarding that. Like, as a corporation, they're not even looking at the long term that, that's for this one instance. That's costing you more. But because you've done that and you set the precedent for that, now that is status quo. Now, now that you've got all these crazy claims and you're running around ragged, how many half-hearted claims are you having to deal with and running through? Your cost for all these ridiculous claims is going through the roof because you're having to fight all these things, because you've set a precedent for it. And there's a bigger deal in it besides just, this one case, cheaper to settle than it was to fight it. Well, because it was the right thing to do.
So I'll kind of segue to another area to the topic to show you just how bad things really are. And so the consequences, first of all, for what we're allowing with our kids is everything's at stake at the highest levels. Really, freedom's at stake. That's what's at stake. And we're right on the cusp of losing all of that. And these kids, these people, not even just these kids, these are adults, don't even understand how close we are. They don't think it can happen. Take it from a guy that's lived in, worked in, or traveled in 97 countries. It's very possible. America can crumble in a minute. We're right on the cusp, just like every other great empire that's ever collapsed in history. So I was working in San Francisco. I won't name who I was working for, the client. It's a large department store, very big, international. As you know, in California, LA, Oakland, San Francisco, the level of theft is through the roof. The level of crime is through the roof. Imagine that. The crime is so bad out there. So if you steal up to $950 worth of merchandise, it's only a misdemeanor. If they even charge you with it, which they will not do. All right. So, for example, this client that I was working for, this store, my only job was literally to stand in front of the camera, let the insurance company see me. So they go, look, we got a badass here protecting us, and we're still getting robbed. What they didn't tell the insurance company was this badass wasn't allowed to do anything, nothing, zero, just stand there, right? It was a bullshit. It was all smoke and mirrors. So the rules of engagement were you could not in any way interdict, interfere with, talk to, or any way intercede shoplifters in any way. If they were stealing and they would literally come in, they do this everywhere. It's not just an anomaly. It's literally every day up to the location I was at 50 to 70 times a day. 50 to 70 times a day. My bullshit. 50 to 70 times a day. They would literally come in, sometimes come in with carts, pull carts in, 40-gallon trash bags, everything. You name it. They come in with wheelchairs, and they took their time shoplifting. They would literally just clean off the shoe racks. They would smash in the glass and the perfumes, and they would take it. They were in a hurry because they knew, one, the cops were not coming. The cops will never come because unless there's weapons involved, they're not showing up. There's not enough of them. Why? Because they defunded the police. There's not enough cops, and the ones that are left are so close to retirement, their pension, they're not going to jeopardize it. Because at the time, they just canned that shit for fucking Boudin, the DA in San Francisco. He was prosecuting police officers, security officers for doing their jobs. And so nobody wanted to be even involved. And so, they were literally cleaning the shelves off so much in this large department store I was at, 4 stories high. People were asking me, is this store going out of business? You guys getting ready to go back, close out? And I go, no, it's just everybody just keeps stealing every day, clean the shelves off. Like, how? Whoa. Several major stores on Market Street alone, Marshalls and other stores, big stores have closed down. 27 or 29 Walgreens closed down in San Francisco because of the level of theft. I've seen it. I know the security officers at these stores. I watched them every day. It was hand-to-hand combat. Literally every minute. They're in there duking it out, throwing people out, fist fighting and stuff because they were getting robbed blind. And so I could go on with these stories. Let me tell you how bad it was besides the theft. Literally, people were coming in. They were pulling their pants down and shitting in the middle of the floor. They were shitting in their hands. They were smearing it. They were throwing it around, smearing on the windows. They were coming in, pulling their pants down, having sex in the open, in the middle of the store, in the aisleway. There were men, homosexuals, in the men's dressing room, up there getting it on so loud that people standing there go, what's going on there? I need to go check. I need to try some clothes. And guys were in there. The people were coming in off the street because the store bathrooms were not available to them because they were going to shoot drugs. They were literally going into the dressing rooms and taking a shit and pissing on the floor all day long, constantly doing that. Just right there. They didn't even try to cover it up, right? Shooting meth, shooting heroin and drugs right there on the floor, just literally squatting down, tying up, shooting, and nothing happened. I can go on with the story all day long. I got pictures and video of nude people, nude women in broad daylight, walking up down the street, and nobody's paying attention. Literally, they got no clothes on. And they're jumping around, tits are flopping, and they're just like they're not even there. Like, there was a guy standing in a crosswalk, getting ready, and a whole crowd of people getting ready for the light to change across the crosswalk. He's standing there masturbating, literally had his penis out, and he's masturbating, standing there, and like everybody's like, yeah, San Francisco. That's where they're at. There were dead bodies on the road. You can't walk 10 feet without smelling urine or seeing human feces. Bodies laying everywhere. I could just go on and on, and I got all the pictures, I got all the proof, and it was not like every now and then. It was constant, all day, all night long. And so I look at, well, how did that happen? Because that doesn't happen where I live. I live in Panama City Beach, Florida. It's a conservative town. You don't see that shit. Nobody will tolerate that, right? Because we actually have morals, values, and ethics. Okay, we believe that allowing a person to sleep on the street is not really very humane. We believe that allowing a person to shit on the floor of a department store is really not very humane or civil. We should police that up, not their shit, but that person, right? And so, but because there's no consequences. There's no consequences out there, and it was just insane. I got so many threats every day. I mean, it got to the point where, like, listen, guy, take a number, come back. About 7:30. I'll be outside. If I'm not outside, get some water, limber up, warm up. I'll be out there and we'll handle it. They never show up. They're all pussies, right? But guns and knives, they'd come in with hypodermic needles in their hands and threaten you with that, They were literally robbing the place with pit bulls on more than one occasion. I mean, there was no limits to the insanity because
that's insane, man.
This is what they allowed. This is what the people of California allowed, period. Okay. And so they elected, London Breed, the mayor. They elected this guy, Boudin. They elected the city council. I'm talking about San Francisco right now. That doesn't even include LA and Oakland and all these other areas. They elected these people, and this was their policies they elected. And this is what they got for it. And everything was shutting down. Everything was going bankrupt. The prices were going up. They closed everything early just because when it got dark, the fucking zombies would come out and start robbing the place. So it's like, okay, we got to open later and close earlier so it's still daylight, because if it's not, they're coming. And they would come in mass, in mobs, okay? I facilitated a lot of mob arrests because of this shit. And this is where we're at. And it's not just California. It's Chicago. Even New York has adopted the same policies as California. Are you kidding me? Right? So, and who's doing this? What cities are doing it? What states is this in? These aren't conservative. This is the liberal mindset. They're allowing this. Okay. And they're just completely destroying society with this tolerance. It's really intolerable. It's uncivilized, it's intolerable, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Well, and it's not truthful. Like, that's the thing that I keep going to on it. That's what they're doing is you want to live by the principle of, everything's chaos and I can have what I want. Right. And what's good for me is good for me. And what's good for you is good for you. And that's a perfect example. Those people are just doing them. They're just doing what they want to do. And they're living their best life. Like, that's a lie, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a bullshit lie that society is telling itself that that's okay because you're doing you, and that's what you doing you looks like, right?
Well, I'll tell you why it's also a lie, right? So this is, again, politicians. They know how to manipulate the masses. So here's what happens. I've seen people come in 2-3 times a day and rob us over and over and over because they know there's no cops are not going to come. Nobody's going to call the cops. Even when the cops came, they would look at us and go, not me, but the store would go, what do you want me to do? Well, we'd like our merchandise back. Here's your merchandise back. And they let them go all day long. Sometimes, and if the person said, I'm not giving it up, the cop was like, oh, I'm not fighting over the merchandise either. Good luck. See ya. Because the cop don't want to lose his job. They have the ROE has now changed that, the rules of engagement. So the use of force, so police officers can't even touch an individual. He's walking out all kinds of shit. He's stealing. A police officer can't even grab him, go, ho, stop. As soon as that happens, the next thing that happens, and they already know this because the liberals put this out on the news so everybody can hear it. It's like the next call is, give me your supervisor. Supervisor from PD has to come down. They all have to go to the police station. They have to download the cameras. They have to analyze it. And nobody wants that drama, right? And so it's hearsay. He touched me. He did this. He bumped me. So the cops will not do nothing. They're just standing back, collecting their paycheck, waiting until they can get out of Dodge. Their recruiting is so low in San Francisco, they can't even fill up their police training academies. Their classes are empty. Or they're so small, they got to cancel them. Nobody wants to be a cop out there no more.
And you can't blame them. You really can't. You've got guys that, but when you neuter the one who's to enforce any laws, you can't neuter that group. You can't.
They're good guys, man. They're good cops, man.
Yeah,
I know all these cops, And
the only ones that are going to stick around are the bad ones.
Absolutely, man. And so there's probably not very many of those guys either. All the cops I met out there, quite a few were pretty good guys, but they were frustrated because of all these stupid ass policies and shit. And so what happens is this, right? So the city gives every person, every homeless person, whatever, they get, I believe it's $800 a month, a debit card for $800 a month. They actually give free rooms for a certain amount of time so they go shower and get cleaned up. Warm place to stay for a few nights, that thing. So, and then, they got other companies that come in, third-party vendors on contract, they're handing out blankets and bullshit. So everybody's making money off the homeless because, look, that $800 that guy's getting on a debit card will last him a second, right? For him to go buy more drugs because they actually have areas where they go shoot up all day long. I've watched them shoot up for the cops. The cops won't do anything because they know they can't. So they burn through that cash really fast. Then the next step is it's almost like clockwork. They come in and now they start stealing. They go down several blocks and there's an outdoor, like an outdoor market with foreigners, and they sit there and they sell the stuff they stole for, whatever, half the price or a third of the price. These other guys take the stuff and resell it, okay, make the money. So then all the third-party vendors are getting money from the government, from the city, to hand out blankets, right? It's a self-licking ice cream. It keeps going on and on and on. There's no end to this thing, okay? And what they're doing is they're perpetuating the problem, because when you allow people to keep taking drugs, okay, they need more money to buy more drugs. And if they only have $800, I got to get more money. Where do I get that from? Well, I steal from this guy, okay? And I go down here and apply it to these guys. They give me a little bit of money. I go out and buy more drugs. It's just a cycle. And they're going to give me a blanket to roll up in on the street at night. And sometimes they get a hot shower and some free food. I have no incentive to better my life because everybody's taking care of me. Everybody's what I want.
It's such shit. And then the reason what I think, one of the things that we keep where we're getting wrong with this whole thing is what is, when we're looking at this, what does the definition of, it's what everybody now in society is looking at is, you got to be loving and you got to be nice and you got to be kind, right? And I think we don't have a proper definition of what love is, right?
Right?
Oh yeah, and that being kind is not one of the favorite sayings for me is being nice is kind, right? Or no, being kind is nice, but sometimes being nice is necessarily kind, right? Yeah. It's not kind to be so nice to give somebody a bunch of crap, and not love also looks like something that is hard, right? That it's for your best that you don't live like this, but I'm not going to support the way that, it's called tough love whenever you're looking at an addict, right? Is that, so I'm not going to support your addiction. Your tough love is you don't get anything anymore. You don't get to have, and there's repercussions for it. And I love you enough. And it's the same with being a father and raising my kids, right? Is I love you enough to teach you the tough stuff, to not say it's okay that you do this, that I remember my little boy taking my money one time early when he was, he was probably like 7 or 8 years old. He picked up some money that he had and he, had it. And it was, and he's a sweet boy. I mean, it wasn't, it was such a learning opportunity for him, right? That he had to realize that he had stole from his father, right? And he was just little, he was 7 or 8 years old, but that was a mark moment for him, that there was repercussions for it, and there was shame in what he was doing, and that it cost him something, right? And that there's repercussions, and that's what we're doing. Is this you're not loving these people that are sitting and living on the streets by helping them continue to live and live on the streets. That that you're turning them into an animal by giving them rights and telling them it's okay to run around in a department store and crap on the floor, and that, like, what part of that is good or loving, or like what I mean, you're looking at what it looks like when you look at a society and say this is acceptable. Yeah. That's what acceptable looks like.
Yeah, you know what? And here's the sad part is a lot of foreigners were coming to San Francisco on vacation. They believed the postcards, right? And they would show up and they would watch all this stuff go down, like where I was at. And they would literally walk up to me and go, "Are you going to do anything?" I said, "I'm doing it. This is all I'm allowed to do." And they're like, "Are they allowed to?" Yeah. I said, "They can do what they want." In fact, and I would tell these people, I go, "You know what? You go up here and steal $950 worth of shit. I'm not going to stop you. Nobody here is going to stop you because we can't. We're not going to call nobody. We're not going to say a damn thing. You can just take it, go out, put it in the trunk of your car, come back, and get another load." I said, they were just, I couldn't believe it, man. But that is actually the truth. That's actually the truth. I watched it happen all day long. People walking out with carts full of clothes. I mean, they were loading up 40-gallon trash bags. Guys were walking on $1,000 worth of shoes at a time. I watched it all go down all day long for probably close to 6-7 months. Every freaking day when I was out there. My job originally was, hey, we need you to go out and protect the employees, because they were getting scared because people were getting so violent now. They're beating up all the employees. And so, the employees, look, it's San Francisco. Think about this for a minute. So this particular store, everybody in there was, a minority woman. It was homosexuals, transsexuals. I can only remember a couple of guys that I would tell, those are dudes, and they were dudes. They were veterans. And that's it. I said, but they're not even always here. I said, so you got all these other people that are sheep, and they need a sheepdog in here to protect them from the wolves. And that was my job, And even then, I was constrained as to what I could do and not do, and it wasn't very much. I mean, I arrested quite a few people, but I was very limited in my powers of what I could do. When I say arrested, I facilitated the arrest. And luckily, the only reason I was able to facilitate arrest is because I had built a good rapport with the local police, Hearts and Minds. They would never come if the store called for their help. But if I called for their help or they saw me, they always came for me because they knew who I was. And so I got things done. But if it wasn't for me, nothing would happen. And I think they did it more out of respect for me. Like, they didn't want to look like a shitbird in front of me, like, do your job. Even so they did, right? But it wasn't because they didn't want to do their job. It's because there's severe consequences for them if it's perceived they made a mistake, even if they didn't, right? So it's just, this is California, this is Chicago, this is New York. It's spreading like cancer, and comes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It's a breakdown. It's really a breakdown of the family. It's a breakdown of society. It's a breakdown of moral and ethical values. It's being broken down by people in power. Okay, they're the ones that are pushing this. They want this to happen because it empowers them. If they can get the dumb masses to follow them like the Pied Piper, man, they can do all kinds of shit. You and I are the bad guys, and they give us all kinds of names: toxic masculinity, fascist. Whatever they can throw at us to make us look like the bad guys, that's what they're doing. Even though we're not the bad guys, we actually give a fuck about our country and the people in it and our culture. We want the best for our kids. We don't want our kids, aborted, and we don't want our kids, brainwashed and believing that, you can cut your dick off when you're 5 years old, but you feel comfortable with that. Come on, man. And so, but we're the bad guys for that. And you think about the other people, and I don't want to give them a pass, because if you're more than 18 years old, hell, if you're more than 16 years old, you know better. And why you say 16? Because, hey, the liberals think that's old enough to vote. Okay. If you're 16 years or older, you know better. Okay. And if you're buying into the propaganda, you're my enemy, period. You're my enemy, period. No, there was a time when we could we could have a difference of politics and still be friends. Those days are long gone. We cannot be friends about differences in politics. You're a fucking Democrat, you're my goddamn enemy, period. All right? Because your liberal views, you're supporting a party that's okay with killing babies. And my opinion is that's what you're actually doing, is you're killing babies. All right, you want to believe the science? I can read the science to you. It tells you those are fucking babies. Just
tell me what it's not.
Yeah. So, they're supporting that. They're supporting taking my firearms so I can't defend myself from what? A tyrannical government. It's not because I want to go hunt. I could care shit less about hunting. It's not about hunting. Okay. It's about protecting myself from a government, okay, with their stormtrooper, Democrat, liberal, transvestites, transsexuals that want to take my freedom, take my money, take my life, take my children from me. That's who I'm going to stand against. That's why I want to protect my Second Amendment right. It's not a government right. It's my God-given right. It's my natural right.
And that right and what you've done in your job and your career, right, has been fighting for all of them the whole time too, for their rights. That's the craziest thing about it, right? Yeah. Is that You're right, and what you've done has been nothing but supportive for their rights and their abilities to be able to pursue what they wanted to pursue, do what they wanted to do. Your sacrifice was for not just for the 1% or the only the conservatives, like what we have fought for as a nation, or what we've wanted and represented as a nation, was freedom for all of us, right?
Yeah.
But this new idea of freedom is not a freedom for everybody. It's a freedom for few. And it doesn't make sense that it's a lie, because it can't be proven, right? It's the same thing as, is the same thing as the abortion ideas and whatever else. That whole deal with abortion, instead of telling me who's right is what, your job as a, writer of the law or whatever else, or someone who is investigating this, your job, your burden of proof is prove to me that it's not a life. Yeah. Prove to me it's not a life. Prove to me that you're not taking, because if someone kills a pregnant woman, they're tried for 2 murders. That the egg of, you said before, the bald eagle egg. If I destroy a bald eagle egg, or I destroy a turtle's egg, that I have fines. Because why? Because we observed that as life somewhere at some point in some time, right? And so prove to me, your burden of proof is to prove to me that that's not a life. Show me that it's not.
And so, look, and here's the other thing, man, when it comes to abortion. Look, I know a lot of women that had abortions out there.
Yeah.
They bought into the lie that it's just a clump of cells. So they had an abortion, right? Because, again, they were swayed by the more vocal people out there.
They were lied to. They were lied to also.
Right? So I get it. If they did that once because they believed the bullshit, I can forgive that. I can understand how that can happen, right?
And there is forgiveness, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But, those that, like that one cunt that was on there, 23 abortions, bragging about it, it's like, you know what? You're just a mass murderer, period. You're a piece of garbage and need to be extinguished, erased from this planet. We don't need you in the gene pool. We don't need you, not that you want to reproduce, obviously, but we just don't need you around the rest of us, especially our kids. And then, so I was going to share something with you real quick. I know we're kind of getting towards the end here, but so what I wanted to show, this is not something I wrote. It's something that I gleaned from somebody else. But this kind of puts it all in perspective. And I know that if you were to read this to any liberal, any they call themselves pro-life, or no, pro-choice. Bullshit. Okay? Pro-choice. If you say pro-choice, that means you have the choice to choose to live or kill somebody. Let's say live or kill somebody. I should have the same choice to kill you if I want you, because I don't believe you either. I don't think you're around. I got kicked off of Twitter because I had a woman say, I'm an old person, I'm a veteran, but I'm old and I'm crippled and I need to protect myself. I want to be safe and we don't need to have any firearms. I go, you're a veteran. Fuck, get yourself an M4 and protect yourself then. And then she went on to about abortion, about, they're a drain on the welfare system, and they're a drain on society, the unwanted babies, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, you just said you're old and crippled, so you're obviously a drain on society. I said, why don't you put a needle in your head, suck your brains out, cut your arms and legs off, and get yourself off the system? They actually banned me from Twitter for saying that, right? But so what I was going to say was, there's a thing called the principle of precondition. I'll just kind of read it to you, all right? It kind of destroys the argument of bodily autonomy, okay? So everybody goes, my body, my choice. But the principle of precondition negates that, and here's what it means. If I pick up a baby, can I claim bodily autonomy that no one can use or use my body without my consent and simply drop the baby? So if I pick up a body, go, I changed my body, I don't want you using my body, and I just drop the fucking kid. Can I do that? That would be the same thing as a pilot in a 747 go, you know what? It's my body flying this airplane, and I just don't feel like flying this airplane anymore, and I'm going to let it crash with everybody on board. No, he's got a responsibility to keep all those souls behind him alive, because he took responsibility for them because he's flying the airplane. It's the same thing with a baby. When you make the choice to fuck, have sex, and get pregnant, you have a responsibility to that other body that's in your body, has a separate set of DNA, to carry it to safety. That's your job. If I'm holding the baby, You hand me your baby, and I go, you know what? Oh, that's so cute. Wait a minute. Body autonomy. I don't want to hold it anymore. I'm obligated to set that baby down or hand it back to you safely, not just say fucking drop it off the fucking building. I don't want to hold it anymore.
Yep.
All right, and that's kind of what this whole thing about principle precondition means. And there's a lot of truth to that. But the argument is, well, it's not a baby, but actually it is a baby. And I'll read to you what is a baby. Believe the science, right? So let me pull that up here real quick. If I can pull it up real quick. I got all this stuff saved, man. Let's see. Okay, life is defined as a system that has a capacity of performing functions such as eating, metabolizing, excreting, breathing, moving, growing, reproduction, and responding to external stimuli. This applies to the unborn babies because they have that capacity. This is science. Okay, this is science. It's not just a clump of cells. I mean, you took a 5-month-old fetus, a baby is fully formed. It can survive outside the womb at 5 months. How is that just a clump of cells? It's not. Then the other argument that's made is, well, it doesn't have senescence. Oh, yeah? Well, what about the guy that's in a coma that's 50 years old, 40 years old, got in a motorcycle crash, and he's in a coma? Do you say, well, he doesn't have senescence, so is it okay to pull the plug and kill him? What if he comes out in a couple of days, in a week, in a month, in a year? See, we don't have that right. We don't have that right. And so this is what's lost. It's indefensible. And I'm just appalled at how can people try to defend that when it's right there. The science is right there. It's all right there in your face. But like, remember I said in the beginning, what Hitler said? Give him 90 days, and you can tell him in 90 days you'll believe a lie in the face of the truth. No matter what, you'll never change your mind. And this is where we're at.
Yeah. And, it goes right back to everything else that we talk about too, is that if you're not responsible for your own decisions, you made the decision to do an act that causes procreation, right? If you've decided to do that act, then you also are responsible for those actions that you did. And if you can't sacrifice the 5 months and go through the carry that child for the purpose of somebody else, you're never going to learn the responsibilities that come along with your actions. And that's what we're seeing with all the ridiculous shit that you're talking about in San Francisco and all the other places, is that you're looking at what it looks like when we don't have responsibility. There is no repercussions for our bad decisions and what it is. And you can live life the way you want to, and it's at nobody else's expense. And that is a lie in every facet of life. There is a consequence to every action that you do. And if you've made that, you're taking someone else's consequences and not being responsible for it. So
the operative word is responsibility. We started out this segment with that word, responsibility. I quoted Mark Twain. Mark Twain said most people, 99%, do not want responsibility, will not take responsibility, because it implies that you actually got to think and you actually have to do things to be responsible. It's easier to give your responsibility, to absolve yourself of it, by giving it to the government, to other people, right? And that's exactly what's going on here. These people are too lazy to take responsibility for their actions or inactions. And what they want to do is they want to project it on somebody else. And they want to do it they want to feel good about themselves. And so, they come up with, words like pro-choice, my body, my choice. When they want to, and so they think if they say it loud enough, that it must be true. My body, my choice. That sounds
and often enough.
Right. It sounds like it might make sense, right? It's my body, my choice. If you talk about sticking a drug into a vaccine, but it's not my body, my choice when there's actually two bodies, two sets of DNA. And my choice was to allow myself to get pregnant. Now, of course, there's caveats, right? Everybody makes the argument, well, what if somebody's raped or said, okay, the numbers statistically are so small that they're insignificant. And maybe there's an exception for that. But generally speaking, most people that have babies did so because they were irresponsible. They didn't use birth control. They had random sex or whatever, and they got pregnant. And now they want to undo this They made a bad decision one night. And so now to fix that bad decision, that pro-choice, is to kill a human being that's inside their body.
And not take responsibility for it. And I've heard that over and over, the excuse of, well, what about rape, or what about incest? And, and those are the fringe instances that happen. And it does happen for sure. I'm not going to ignore that it doesn't happen. Right. But my question on that is always, well, so you're telling me just because your dad was a piece of shit, you don't deserve to live?
Yeah, exactly.
It still doesn't negate the fact that that's a living being in there, and it doesn't lose in its value as a human being just because your dad or the sperm donor was some piece of crap. If that's the case, then there's a lot of people that don't deserve to walk around because they had a parent that was bad or whatever else. You can't use that argument and make that life of no value. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's a hard decision and it's a suck decision. But you know what? The life is filled with a bunch of suck decisions and hard things that we have to go through. But there's a sacrifice for a life. And you can't negate the fact that life has value. Right. Yeah, we can't blow that over and act like that is not that life just because there was an act around it, or it's one person, one individual in the party that participated was a piece of shit. Like, it doesn't make that life any less valuable. I think that's a crazy deal for people to use as an argument. It doesn't negate the fact, and we're dancing around the idea, the truth that is a life, no matter which way you look at it. And it doesn't make it a less valuable life. It makes it suck for the birthing, the mother, to be able to go through that. But that's a consequence we got to work at. And life does suck. There's hard parts about life. Yeah. And I'm a fool to tell you that it doesn't suck. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. And we all, so the argument is always, women suffer, women don't have a choice. All the propaganda, I've even been lately, they're going, okay, now we're at this stage. The next stage is we're going to go back to segregation. Man, this is pure propaganda. All of this shit is total propaganda. Okay. Pro-choice, we're going to lose our choice, our body autonomy. No, you never lose the choice. The choice is you either have sex or you don't. Okay? You use birth control or you don't. These are choices.
And there's consequences.
These are your choices. Exactly. Like everything in life, everything is really, it's a series of compromises. It's a series of choices. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to accept those consequences of your decisions. If you make a bad decision, you got to live with it. There's a lot of stuff I have made mistakes. I've done things. But I have never neglected, for example, my children. I have never been the guy who go get an abortion. Like, no. Bring them in as well,
I would venture to say that you probably never skirted the consequences of any of your decisions too. I've made bad decisions in my life and I took the consequences and I learned from it. And it made me stronger. It made me make a better decision later on and do all that. I think the greatest part about this conversation, and I hope we do a few more because we're both two like-minded guys on a lot of the discussions, and I think it's important nowadays for young men to know what not just a talking point, right, but a true heart of. I think it's a misconception, right? Because we look at the videos or the outside look of what a warrior is, right? And the warrior culture, right? And that it's just a knuckle dragger, right? It's just some guy that's just, all about him and whatever else. And I think one thing that's a misconception is that for people to understand what it is that guys like me and you, they can look at us from a point of view as being like just knuckle draggers or just, the conservative deal, but to understand the heart behind guys like us, men that work, that do more work with our hands, that are not necessarily, we find our reward in necessarily just sitting at a desk kind of deal. But, and what I've seen and I've noticed in most guys, is your line of work. And I know a few. I know, or at least 10 guys, that are in your same line of work, is that a group of guys who don't have a purpose or an understanding of a greater good, right? Yeah. You couldn't go out and do the things that you do and have experienced the things that you've done and led the way that you've led without understanding right from wrong and having a strong purpose in what you're doing. You can't just go and do those things without just because or just for $1, right? Yeah. You can tell me all you want to about a guy that goes out and does, mercenary work or whatever you want to call it, that just does it for the dollar. That, I'm sure there's guys like that too, but that, there's got to be a greater good that you're doing it for. You got to understand right from wrong, and that you can't be just a knuckle dragger. Like every one of the guys that I know, several different languages, that are have higher education, that you're not a bunch of numbnuts that are running around, like very highly intelligent guys that have an understanding of truth and purpose in it. And because of what you've done, you have seen and know discussions of things wrong. You understand consequences, that life in the world around you is going to smack you in the face if you don't understand right from wrong and you don't get those consequences. Everything that you know and that you're using in teaching and leadership is through experiencing the consequences and unseeing in life what it's like when you don't follow the rules of life in the world.
Yeah. So it goes back to, people just don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
But this is where leadership comes to play early on in people's lives. And it's critical that we teach our young kids, our young ones early about, those principles about leadership, integrity, responsibility, accountability, all those things. Before their school teachers get a hold of them, like we're seeing it now, and social media and all these things are polluting their minds. There's nothing good that comes out of this. Look at this. I don't know what the fuck you want to call him, but this guy that just shot all these people in Chicago. I mean, you see pictures of this guy, cross-dresser.
Yeah.
I mean, actually look at all of them, these mass shooters, and they're all deranged psychopaths with left-leaning liberal tendencies, cross-dressing. They're puny beta males. They're just
role model, no father.
No, and here they are, right? And they're out just slaughtering people indiscriminately, like it's a video game, and that's the reason why. And so, how do we change that? Well, we can't force people to stay married. And unfortunately, the strain of society, the strain of our jobs, the strain of everything it tears people apart. It tears families apart. The politics is huge. People fucking hate each other in their own family over politics, and these belief systems that they've been, indoctrinated in. And so what it takes guys outside the family, men outside the family, to be role models and mentors. And that's kind of where I find a lot of my success. I have a lot of people that follow me, mostly young men, because for that very reason, they're looking for a role model. They're going, damn, I want to be like that guy, and I can't reach them all. And, and there's a lot of guys out there that will never be reached just because their mind's not there. They've already been indoctrinated into the bullshit, and,
But, then that role that you've had, not only being a father to all of your children too, but that role model that you had as like a father-like type of role was in working with the SF and all the other teams that you've worked with and that you put together, that leadership, that role, whether it's an executive, that you're taking that role of teaching truth and giving that knowledge, showing people by leading properly in all these different environments. Like you see it with coaches, with young kids, and like there's a role that we as men play, not just as our father for our immediate family, but we can be that role model, it's being diminished and it's being belittled, but it is such an important role model for our entire society. And it's not just a, guy that's a door kicker. It's not just a guy that's a horse trainer, but it's the guy that's the coach for the baseball team at the junior high level or high school or college or whatever. Like, there's so many roles that we have that we've got to take those roles and take them seriously. And it's a sacrificial role. It's a role that takes time away from, what you want to do, but it's finding that passion in it, right? That and a purpose. Like, I think that's a big part, is that purpose, right?
Yeah. And so, with that said, Mike, whenever I get a coaching client, that's the very first question I ask them is, what's your purpose in life? And a lot of times they answer, I want to help people. I want to, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. I get it. We all want to help people. Is that your purpose, or what is your personal purpose? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? For me, my purpose was always to be a good role model for my kids, and they can hate me all they want, but at least I know I was a good role model. And even I told my oldest daughter one day, I said, you know what? You'll let all my kids, if they want to hate me, at least they can hate me from, a position of privilege. That's where you can hate me from a position of privilege, because I gave you that privilege. I gave you the opportunity to be whatever you want to be. And in that station in life, you can look down and spit on me if you want, but you can thank me for giving you that station. And that was my role as a father and a leader. And if you don't respect that, that's okay. I did my part. And hopefully you're a better person for that. And hopefully you recognize what I did for you. That's for all, that's the way I look at it. Not all kids are going to, appreciate that, but
no, I think I tell my kids that, you'll appreciate it later when you have kids, when you get to the point where you're doing that. And I'm sure I'm going to give you plenty of things to talk to your therapist about how I did things or whatever else. But you know what? That's part of life, right? And love looks different than what the world is telling you. Love doesn't look like a passive allowing things to happen and being okay with these things. Love looks like, I love you enough to be real with you so that you can survive this thing called life, not be a victim of life, but that you can be a participant of life, and that, and you're going to see that love in me as you grow and you raise your kids and do that stuff. I got my own special way of screwing you up on certain things. I know I'm going to mess things up, but it's not because I'm doing things. I don't need you to understand that I'm perfect. I need you to understand that I care and that I love you enough to have all of us go through the tough stuff. That's truth in life. You're full of shit if you think that this is all going to be hunky dory and it's going to be easy and voila, you're going to be making all kinds of money and you're going to, it's just going to be that easy. There's sacrifice with every bit of it, whether it's, sacrificing the family, sacrificing work or whatever, but that's truth, right? It's not the other crap that's truth, right?
Well, when I grew up, my mom and dad were the same. I was a runt. And I got bullied a lot, and I would get in a lot of fights. And I remember both my mom and dad my dad used to watch me get in fights in the street with some other kids. And he would come out with his beer in his hand. He wasn't a redneck kid, okay? My dad was in the Army. And he would watch me fight. And he would tell me, you kick his ass, son. If you don't kick his ass, when you come home, I'm going to kick your ass. My mom would say the same. They made me fight. Now, people today go, you should turn the other cheek and walk away. You know what? We live in a very rogue and feral world. You turn the cheek, you might get stabbed in the goddamn back, right? So my parents were smart enough to go, you know what? I'm going to teach my kid to be tough. It's like Johnny Cash in the song, he named his son Sue. What was it? Growing Sue, and he did that to make him tough, right? He fought his whole way life growing up. He hated his dad for naming him Sue, but he realized why he did it, And so my parents did the same thing. They didn't come out there and break up the fight, and go shake hands, be good boys. They were like, kick his ass, son, or I'm going to kick your ass, right? They taught me to win. They taught me to fight. They taught me to stand my ground. They taught me there's going to be consequences. If I don't stand my ground, there's going to be consequences. One, that guy will kick my ass, and then they're going to kick my ass. So I was, and guess what? And this is what, the libs out there like, yeah, and that's what makes a psychopath and a mass shooter. Well, guess what, stupids? You know what? I've never been in trouble with the law ever. I don't have any misdemeanors. I have nothing. Zero. I've got a perfect track record. I'm a good person. I've done nothing but help people. I've saved lives. You know why? And because of the person that I am, because the person I was raised to be. I was raised to be a fighter, a protector, a defender. I was raised to be a sovereign man. Okay, not a crybaby who ran with his tail between his legs. I'm the sheepdog. I was taught to stand and fight the wolf, and I did. I'm better than the wolf, So, and this is what's missed because it's all bullshit propaganda about, turning the other cheek. Man, that sounds really good until you get kicked in the ass for turning your cheek. You get a real stranglehold put on your ass for turning the other cheek. Okay? That's all sounds good and warm and fuzzy Dr. Spock shit, but that's not reality. That's not the world we live in, especially now. It's dangerous. It's feral. It's rogue. You know what? People getting smoke checked every day, just minding their goddamn business, And so, it's happening a lot in our country. Look at all the people getting shot down these mass shootings. You can't stop the mass shootings. You can't take the weapons away. It's not going to happen, but these people are minding their business and then they're dead. Okay. Yeah. This is the world we live in. So you can either prepare yourself or you can succumb to it. That's it. But what you cannot do is hold other people responsible that didn't do anything and make other people accountable for shit that they're not doing, thinking that somehow that's going to protect you. It's not.
Yeah. It's not. Right? It's not. And it's not reality, and the thing that is probably one of the hardest lessons that most are going to learn in the future is that, whenever you need those skills, when you need those things to survive life, it's too late to go and earn them. Yeah. It's too late. I think that's why there's plenty of stuff that talking about being a sheepdog, it's like, there's plenty of things that doing jujitsu. I love that, man. I love the exercise. I love the workout. I love the struggle. There's so much, it's great stuff to learn in all of the, martial arts and stuff. But I think it's like the quote of, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And that's so true. By the time it's war, it's too late. So you preparing not only physically to do all those things, but preparing your mind for these things too is what, the role of a father is in developing his kids, is developing so that they don't fall or crush under the pressure of, whatever it is, that's the hard stuff but you've conditioned them to be able to handle those things. And they're not going to know it at the time, but, later on when they get older and stuff, it'll come to fruition. And it's the way that, it's the way that a society survives, right? It's the way that we become, better as a society is when we see the values of all of those, that it's not just one that, the fringes that takes over control and you go to one extreme or to the other. There's a balance between all of these things. And that's the reason why we stand so much behind what it is that we believe in our country, because it was a balance. It was a fairness for all. It was a balance, but it doesn't, we all have the right to pursue happiness. Doesn't mean you get happiness, right? Doesn't mean you get everything. It just means you have the right to try and do it. And if you quit too early, you don't get it. If you have the right to try and do that, but doesn't mean you're going to get it. You have the right to try, right? If you don't have the guts to push with it, the stick-to-itness that you were taught to be able to do, or to be tough enough about it, well, then you don't get it. But that's life. But you got the opportunity, right? We all have the opportunity. And then the rest of it, that you deserve it, is a lie. It's just a lie.
So now it's everybody gets the black beret, that's where we're at. Everybody gets the black beret, everybody gets the trophy, and this is why we have such a weak society, a weak country.
It is.
We are weak. It's 5% to carry the other 95%, hands down.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, Dale, it was good speaking with you again, man. I'll have to have you back on. And I'm making damn sure I get all this stuff recorded as many times as I can this time.
All right.
But dude, I've enjoyed it. I really have. And you know, I know you guys hear it plenty of times. Thanks for your service. But, you know, not only thanks for your service, but thanks for the sacrifice. Like, not just because you sacrificed, but that you're an example, man. And we need more of this. We need more of the guys being able to speak out, and not because I want to take and just because of, fanboy of whatever. It's more of, like seeing the similarities in between the farmer and the rancher and the special forces guys. But the reason behind all of that, why I find love in agriculture and why I find love, it's not just because it's easy. It's a hard freaking life, man. It sucks. It's hot. It's, crappy. I've got to go out there when I don't want to, and taking care of the lives of other animals because it's nutrition to others. And, but that's a greater good that we're working for. And you guys are the same, but finding that struggle in all of us as men, finding that similarities, I think it's cool stuff, man.
Sure.
So,
absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. Anytime.
You bet. You bet.
You've been listening to the Go Time Podcast with Todd Martin. If you'd like to know more about the Go Time Podcast, Todd Martin, or Todd Martin Performance Horses, you can visit us at toddmartin.net, N-E-T. We're going to be putting up some merchandise on there too for the podcast. And also, please, if you get the time and you like it, share it with a friend. Give us a like and a review. I guess all that stuff kind of really helps and helps us get it out there to more people to be able to enjoy the podcast. So until next time, go time.